As we get closer to the 2024 presidential election, we need to start talking more about RFK Jr.'s presidential campaign. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video today. It is time that we talk about the 2024 presidential election. Because everyone, according to Politico, we have a brand new analysis of who are the people, at least financially, backing RFK Jr.'s presidential campaign. Now, let me be clear. We're going to go into what does the analysis show? Who are the people that are backing Kennedy? Again, this doesn't mean that he's going to get 80% of Trump voters. That's not what I'm saying. Neither is this analysis. But it is our first look at an objective stat of who are the people that are donating to RFK's campaign. So we're going to get into that today. But first, I hope you guys enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you could join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Alright, everybody. Again, I am not saying that, this analysis has 80% of Trump voters bailing on Trump and backing Kennedy. That's not what this analysis says. But it does show that, according to this data point at least, RFK may be taking more voters away from Trump than from Biden. But we'll get to that in a second when the graph is shown, because there is some fascinating points that the article does make. So let's get into it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is collecting checks from past Donald Trump donors at a much higher rate than former Joe Biden contributors. A sign the independent presidential hopeful may pull more from the Republican electorate than Democratic voters. So at face value, RFK is picking up support from, at least financially, from Donald Trump donors way more than Joe Biden. Now, on paper, that seems like a disaster, but like the article says later, there may be a catch to this. There may be a catch of these voters may just like Kennedy. They're not going to vote for him, but they still want to help him, get on the ballot. And we'll get to that in a second, but let's read the rest of this. A political analysis of campaign finance records also shows that Kennedy's bid has drawn millions of dollars from donors who kept their wallets shut in the last two presidential elections, suggesting he is activating people who have been turned off by what major parties have been offering. And that's the key. The vast majority of the money RFK is raising, they're not from people that financially backed a Democrat, they're not financially back a Republican, possibly even vote the past 10 years. They're people that are just sick of the system. Which theoretically would probably hurt Trump, but it's like, these voters probably didn't vote last time around, or in 2016. They're just sick of the system. So it really makes you wonder, hey, wait a minute. These are the voters that, at least financially, are backing Kennedy? Does that mean that Kennedy is, take away possible Trump voters? Maybe. But that's a theoretical that we just don't know. And that's a big problem with a lot of this stuff going around about he's taken away from potential Trump voters. Are they Trump voters? Until we get more data, it's like you can't really say if these voters are 100% going to be a 100% Trump voter. They may just be a Democrat that's going to vote for Biden potentially next year. Though both parties insist Kennedy will be a non-factor in the campaign, there's clear anxiety about his potential impact, especially among Republicans. The analysis of Kennedy's campaign donations, as in the most recent filing, shows why. His large dollar donor base has a clear Republican lean. That also fits with limited polling that suggests Kennedy might draw more support from Republican-leaning voters. That's actually false. Yes, there's been some polls that show Kennedy doing better with Trump voters, but there's been a bunch of polls showing the opposite, where Trump actually goes up in support when Kennedy's on the ticket. So it's like, the polling is non-conclusive. Right now, it's like half the polls show it helping Biden, the other half shows it actually helps Trump. So I wouldn't say that the polling is, indicating Kennedy is taking huge swaths of Trump voters. Most of the $10 million Kennedy raised from large dollar donors through September 30th came from voters who did not make any federal donations during either the 2016 or 2020 election cycles. Of those who did, 2,100 donors, given nearly $2 million, previously made contributions on the Republican donation service WinRed since 2020. Far fewer donors previously gave through the Democratic tool ActBlue, roughly 1,700 contributors who gave $1.4 million. So we're only talking about a couple thousand donors. They're spread across the country and let's say there's 10 in each state. That's not going to be the impact people think it is. It's just a couple hundred people here, a couple hundred people there. It's like, they're making this sound like it's 10,000 donors. No, it's 2,000 donors that gave to WinRed. But when they say WinRed, that doesn't mean it's to Trump. These voters could be from, say, just an example, Fairfax County, Virginia. Those voters obviously are more Democratic, but they still support Republicans, at least down ballot, or for the congressional elections, more than the presidency. What if those voters that backed are going through WinRed, what if some of them, they just voted for the Democrats, say Biden, but financially backed Republican down ballot, such as, say, Hun Cow? It's possible. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I do think there are some Republicans that gave to WinRed. Doesn't necessarily mean that they voted for Trump, because WinRed could be for any Republican. Kennedy is running as a self-described spoiler, and the draw that the former Democrat has with both the GOP and those who don't have an obvious political home makes him an unpredictable threat to the establishment of both parties. Some Republicans are already trying to redefine Kennedy as a typical Democrat, revealing they're worried about his appeal to GOP voters. All Trump has to say is, go look up what Kennedy said about guns, what he said about immigration, what he said about climate change. That's all Trump has to do when this guy goes down in flames, especially with Republican voters. That's why I'm saying, we're only in 2023, and I know we have to talk about this more often because it is a big question, but it's the second that Trump talks about what Kennedy said about climate change and guns, I don't think a lot of these Republicans are going to back him anymore. Both Kennedy and Trump present a fundamental question to voters, said Senator J.D. Vance. Do you think the country has been well governed by the bipartisan establishment for the past generation? When Kennedy goes out there and runs against the establishment, he has to appreciate it probably ends up splitting votes off from President Trump, said Vance, who has endorsed Trump's 2024 campaign. And absolutely, these voters that are backing Kennedy, they're anti-establishment. They're sick of both parties. And those voters, again, I'm not saying it's 100%, but I do think there are some voters that Trump could pick up in 2024 that he may have lost in 2020. They may just end up going to Kennedy instead. It's possible. Because Kennedy is running as the anti-establishment, Democrat-leaning, quote-unquote, independent. Federal law requires campaigns to disclose donations only from donors who give at least $200. So all they're saying here is these donors, they're not every single donor that Kennedy has gotten, But it does kind of show what the lean of these voters are. Like, are they more Republican? Are they more Democrat? What are they? That data shows more than 500 of Kennedy's biggest donors gave to Trump's 2020 campaign, more than 3 times the number of donors who gave to Biden in that race. And in this cycle, more than 160 donors have given to both Trump and Kennedy, while only a handful have given to both Biden and Kennedy. And this part's critical. This is where my theory of these voters, they may donate to Kennedy. That doesn't mean they may vote for him, is possibly true. 160 donors gave to both Trump and Kennedy. What does that tell you? They magically flipped? I don't think so. I think what we're seeing here is you do got some, Republicans that like both Trump and Kennedy, but they may just want to back Kennedy financially, like give him like $200 to say help him get on the ballot in some states. They're like, I'm going to vote for Trump, but I like Kennedy. I'm going to try to help him get on the ticket. There's a possibility that's what's happening here because look at that. And funny enough, you scroll down to this graph and you look at people that gave to both Trump and Kennedy compared to Biden and Kennedy. Virtually nobody. Which is fascinating because, that either means two things. One, Biden has lost a lot more support than we think. Right? Because, virtually nobody. Hey, does this mean that the voters in the past that have voted Democrat for so long, they said, screw this guy? We're not going to support him. We're going to back Kennedy? Or it's that Biden hasn't lost any support in 2024, or at least this year. Which actually conflicts with what happened in 2020, where, look at that, $189,000. Compare that to 2. That makes you wonder, hey, are these voters, they're just bailing on Biden a much larger number than we think? Because you go from $189,000 to only $2,000 for both candidates? Really makes you wonder about, are these voters really going to vote for Biden, or are they just already flipped? They were already done with Biden far before Kennedy ran? I mean, that graph is fascinating. You go from basically 200,000 to 0. Just something about that really makes you wonder about, who are these voters? Has Biden really lost that much support where they said, screw this guy, we're not backing you? But there's some Trump-Kennedy people that are probably going to vote Trump but financially back Kennedy to a lesser extent? It makes you really wonder what's going on here. The campaign finance data also suggests Kennedy may be sparkling something new in the electorate. More than 60% of his large dollar donors have no donation history on either Act Blue or Win Red, the two parties' primary donation platforms, since the start of 2020. His coalition of previously sidelined donors and Republicans, even when he was running a Democratic primary, may help explain Kennedy's decision to run as independent, which he announced on October 9th. No political party or candidate owns voters. Kennedy welcomes everyone into his coalition, no matter who they supported in the past. So you start looking at it, and even Matt Gaetz brings this up. Oftentimes, people can donate to someone they're not even voting for just to see their argument platforms, said Representative Matt Gaetz. We've seen those calls among the sort of junior varsity slate of Republicans seeking the nomination. So I'm not as concerned about donors. That's a fair point. Like I said, it's like these voters are given to both Trump and Kennedy this year, but none for Biden and Kennedy. It's like, are those voters just not going to vote for Trump suddenly? I don't think so. I think it's actually may indicate that Biden's just lost a lot more support, but Trump is keeping his voters. They may financially support Kennedy, but They may just support Trump in the ballot box. It's very interesting, people. Really makes you wonder what's really going on here. Who are these people that are donating both to Trump and Kennedy? And why is nobody donating to both Biden and Kennedy this year compared to the past? Makes you really wonder what the coalition is looking like. Makes you really wonder, has Trump really lost that much support to Kennedy? Or is it the other way around? We're going to see next year. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you all so much. Godspeed to all of you.